and welcome. In this video tutorial I would like to present the new GUI, short for Graphical User Interface, for the Ceramill Mind software. Let's begin with the home page, also called the database. This central page for the management of all treatment cases is divided into three areas. On the left are the input fields for the dentist, patient and technician names and a notes field for comments. The different indications are defined in the middle, and on the right you can select which other processing stages should follow. I will now create a new treatment case and thereby show you which stages are required for this. We begin with the top left button on the screen. Using the button New, the record card is prepared for creating a new patient. In the case of an already opened treatment, this would be closed and, if required, a prompt appears for saving. Using the button Load, an already existing treatment is selected. The button Save saves all data entered and the treatment can be completely copied with a click on the Duplicate button. You are probably familiar with these four buttons from the previous interface. We now come to the three input fields for clients, patients and technicians. The respective client name can be selected in the drop-down menu if client data has already been entered. When creating a completely new client, click on the button with the 3 points to the right alongside. A new window then opens in the foreground. In the upper left area you will see that you have the option here of creating new clients or editing existing clients. To now enter the names and all further data of a client, click in the respective input fields and insert the data. A self-selected 5-digit number can be entered in the last field for the client. If this field is left empty, the software then automatically selects a serial client number. A click on New saves the new client in the table on the right side. A click on Accept adds the new client and closes the client editing window. You then return automatically to the database. To edit existing clients, they are clicked in the overview and edited in the input fields. A click on Delete deletes the client from the database. If a case already exists for this client, then a message appears which warns you that all these cases must also be deleted. The new client I created is now in the client overview. I select this client, click on Accept, return to the database and find the new client in the input field. I will now create the patient data in a similar way. A click on the button with the 3 points. A new window opens in the foreground. I enter the forename and surname of the patient. To also enter the date of birth, I can either enter the date directly in the input field or select the year, month and day with a click on the Date navigator and a click on the title bar. A click on New adds the new patient to the patient list. A click on Accept adds the new patient and closes the patient list. We are then in the database again and can select the technician. I have already created some technician names. I can therefore easily select the name of the technician via the drop-down menu. You can insert individual notes in the comment field. After all input fields have now been completed, you can create the indications in the odontogram. To do this, click on the required tooth. Select the indication. In this case, I would like to mill a reduced 3 units bridge on tooth 3 to 5 in zirconia. The central screen area now changes and a selection of materials appears. Please note, first select the milling machine or the milling center and then the required material. A selection appears on the right for the scan options of situation, gingiva or abutment scans and setting options of customized design parameters. Under the drop-down menu Advanced Parameters, advanced users can find further parameters which can be customized and saved specifically for the client. If you want to reset amended parameters to standard values, then click on the text line Reset Values. With some other materials, a mandatory shade selection should be made. Once you have selected all important indication parameters, click on OK. The current window closes and you are again at the database. If you have accidentally selected a tooth which you would like to delete again, then click on it and select the Clear button, followed by OK in the following window. The tooth shade and scan mode are selected in the area under the indication selection. Before we continue, we must save all the entered data using the Save button. And only now can we also select the next processing stage. In this case, it would be scanning of the models. I would like to deal with the scan procedure and the new user interface of the Ceramill Map software in a separate video tutorial. I have therefore already prepared some scan data. You can see this in the active Scan button on the bottom left. To now start the CAD Ceramill Mind software, click on the Ceramill Mind button in the Action Selection menu on the right side. The design software starts. I will now take a quick screen tour to make you familiar with the most important elements. All commands and elements which are familiar to you from the old user interface are still there. Some have a fixed position and are still in the same position in the working window. We will begin with the wizard. The wizard is now firmly fixed on the bottom left on the screen. Directly above, also in a fixed position, is the Fade In and Out window group. On the right of the screen is now a toolbar which makes frequently used commands available to you. The symbols on the toolbar can be changed and show, depending on the situation and design stage, additional tool commands. There are 6 buttons in the lower area of the toolbar for predefined views of the scan models. I select the anterior view as an example. I would now like to begin with the design. In the first working step, the wizard offers the option of a mirroring, which I will not carry out, however. I will skip this step, therefore, with a click on the Next button. Here, the start of the virtual articulator is available to me. I have entered the Artec-CR articulator in the database as the scan mode and is now ready to start. With a click on Start Virtual Articulator Now, the parameter input window opens. This window can be freely moved in the screen on its title bar. Depending on the requirement, I select the type of articulator required from an Articulator type drop-down menu. Here I will now select the Artex CR Average Anterior Guidance, which corresponds to average settings on the Artex CR. The figures and angle values which I can enter here are according to the dentist and any patient measurement values prescribed by the dentist. Once I have checked all the parameter settings, I click on the Start Articulator Movement Simulation button. The articulator then runs all dynamic excursions independently and saves the determined excursion paths. With a click on OK, the articulator menu closes and I can continue with the next working stage with a click on Next. The preparation margins are clicked in the usual way. A click on Preparation Margin 1/6, a quick check. If required, change using the Register tab, Correct Drawer. Click on Next. Click on Preparation Margin 1/4 and after a quick check, click on Next. I am now in the working stage of the insertion direction. It should be noted that with bridges a unique insertion direction is to be recommended. I therefore activate the checkbox Unique Insertion Directions for bridges. I can then still correct the insertion axis and click on the button Set Current View as Insertion Axis, then on Next. I would like to go into the details of a new feature of the software for Design the Crown Bottoms. In the right of the toolbar there is a button Close Wizard for Expert Mode. I click on the button, the wizard closes and the button changes its symbol. It's now called Show Wizard. What can I do now? An inconspicuous looking grey toolbar in the lower area of the screen has appeared, which moves into the screen when the mouse cursor comes into contact with it. I can perform very targeted modifications using the tools of this toolbar. The advantage? With the wizard now being closed, I can now return to working stages which are already closed. With a click on a tool, the respective editing window opens and I can perform any subsequent modifications, as here, for example, editing the crown bottoms. This toolbar can do even more. If I click on a specific object, then only this object can be selectively edited without other objects being affected by the editing. For example, tooth 1/4. I click on the tooth. The tooth is now selected. Its color also changes and the toolbar on the bottom area of the screen now enables selection of a tool specially for my selected tooth 1/4. It is now possible, for example, to adjust the margin line, change the insertion direction, modify the crown bottom, load another tooth model or change the minimum thickness. You can see that the most important tools are immediately ready to hand. If even more special editing steps are to be performed, then there is, as also in the previous user interface, a large number of tools available for selection in a context menu using a right click of the mouse. Following completion of editing in the export mode, I click again on the Show Wizard button and follow the design steps with the aid of the wizard window. I will select the export mode again later in my design. The model teeth will be loaded and moved into the optimum position in the next wizard step. With a single click of the mouse, the toolbar on the right side of the screen shows me a visualization. With a single click of the mouse, the toolbar on the right of the screen With a single click of the mouse, the toolbar on the right of the screen shows me a visualization of the antagonist's penetration. After clicking the Show Color Map for Intersections button, a narrow window appears on the top of the screen margin which shows the color representation of the intersections and which is helpful to me with positioning of the teeth. With a click on the drop-down arrow in the shade guide, I can change the sensitivity of the shade display or show the intersections which could be created during the dynamic excursions of the articulator. A click on Next adapts the library teeth to the preparation margins. The morphology of the teeth can be adapted as required in the freeform menu, and the surface can be custom modified using the Add and Remove or Smoothing tool. Pontics and teeth are adapted to the jaw, antagonist or adjacent teeth in the Adapt Register tab. To do this, I click on the respective selection button, Pontic, Occlusal or Approximal, each followed by a click on the button Cut Intersections and on the button Adapt to Gingiva with the Pontic. If I have forgotten an adaptation step, then an info text appears with a click on the Next button in the top right of the screen, which prompts me which adaptation steps I still have to perform. I click on Apply in the shrinking step of the wizard to reduce the anatomical teeth for veneering later. I would also like at this stage to demonstrate the advantage of the Expert mode. Teeth 1.4 and 1.5 should be reduced buccally for veneering later. I click on the button Close Wizard for Expert mode, select the teeth 1.4 and 1.5 with the Control key pressed. Both are now marked in color. The toolbar opens with the tools that are now available to me. I select the Reduce tool, click on Exclude Selected Parts, then on Mark All, and using the mouse button, erase the areas which I want to reduce. I keep the Shift key pressed when doing this, and my mouse functions like an eraser. I click on Apply, check the result, I click on OK, I click on the screen background to cancel the selection of the two objects, and I click on the Show Wizard button. I can then smooth the reduced design or add or remove additional material. The connectors are inserted. And finally, the units are merged. Another important simplification in the new user interface is that in the final working stage of the wizard, I can select whether I'm really finished want to continue to production, that is to nesting software, freeform the finished restorations again or change to expert mode. For example, I now also want to reduce tooth 1.6 buccally, but teeth 1.4 and 1.5 should not be affected by the reduction. I click the Expert Mode button, then on Next. I select the tooth 1.6 separately. The tooth is selected, the Expert toolbar opens and I can select the Reduce tool. I click on Exclude selected parts. I click on Mark All, and with the Shift key pressed, I again erase the buccal areas free which should be reduced. Click on Apply, Quick Check,